All righty then, I welcome you all to the Wareham Finance Committee meeting as of July the 9th, 2014. Calling this meeting to order. Roll call. And since I'm also the clerk at the moment, present are Marilyn Jordan, Joan Fonts, Tom Worthen, Bonnie Catulli, Jeff Langen, and Donna Bronk. Any citizens' participation? Don't all rush in at once. All right, new business, or business theory. I want to introduce two of the new members of the Finance Committee. First is our returning FinCom member for many years, Mrs. Donna Bronk. Say a few words, Donna?
No, I'm just happy to be back, and I found it extremely boring being off. So I'm happy to be back and hopefully help put my expertise.
And also Mr. Jeff Langen. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you.
Like to say a few
Nice
words?
to have you.
Well, glad to be here. I'm looking forward to working with everybody and figuring things out. Bear with me as I learn a lot.
Good, welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. First order of business is reorganization of the FinCom. We left this to our first meeting of the new fiscal year. We have a chair, vice chair, and clerk to fill. So we will open nominations for chair of the FinCom.
Is it appropriate to make a point that we might want to wait until we get a full house here? We got 3 people missing, that's all.
If we nominate someone that's not here.
Can we do that?
Okay, again.
Well, you can.
And they have to take it, right?
Yeah, then they have to take it
Can't
right.
decline.
I'm good with that.
That's up to the
Wait for
pleasure of the
Jeff and
committee.
David and Dominic?
The meeting starts.
Or nominate them for the 3 positions
There you
and
go.
say,
There you go. The 3 of them.
congratulations
Yeah,
when they
yeah,
get here.
yeah, exactly, exactly. I think we meeting's at 6:30. I think you should go ahead and do what you set out to do.
Okay.
People have a responsibility to be here.
Entirely up to you.
Okay, well, can I nominate somebody?
Certainly.
Sure.
I would like to nominate Bonnie Catulli, chairman. And if I can go down the whole slate, for vice chairman, the other Jeff, and for clerk, this Jeff, or Donna. How's that?
Okay, so we have a nomination for Bonnie Catulli as chair, a nomination for vice chair of Jeff
Tufts.
Jeff
Tufts.
Tufts or Bonnie. So I think I messed that up. Not Bonnie, Donna. I did mess it up.
And clerk was Jeff Langdon. Is that your
Yes.
nomination?
The clerk, explain the role for me, has got to be the note taker.
Pretty much a clerk has to sign all meeting notes reviewed as voted. You have to sign them all. And any notes in which our beautiful secretary here is not present. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
I guess, I don't know, you want to do this?
Okay.
Not me, you.
No, you're a co-nominee. I heard 2 nominees.
No, I made a mistake.
Okay, let's go.
I should have said vice chair as Jeff that's missing, but then sometimes he doesn't always make it, but then I thought Donna would be a good vice chair. So,
Before I accept the nomination, I want to make the committee fully aware of my commitments. In the last couple of weeks, I've thrown this thought back and forth in my mind for some time. I even had a private email discussion with Mr. David Hurd. Because of the fact that I sit as the treasurer of the Wareham Lodge of Elks, every Tuesday evening, my presence is necessary in that lodge for bingo, and that is a Mass State Lottery regulation, okay? This concerns me that I won't be able to completely fulfill a commitment to this committee, and that I cannot be available on Tuesdays, okay? As much as I do want to serve and do what's best for the committee, I have a concern that I can't book meetings on Tuesdays in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen. I can't attend Board of Selectmen meetings, okay? I don't want to limit this committee's ability to have those joint meetings, okay? If it's possible to work around those situations, and if it's possible to have a strong vice chair to fill in for those situations, okay? Then I would accept the nomination.
I would back her up 100%
Okay.
if I was, even if I wasn't if she needs help, I'll help her out.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I did email David on this. This was before Donna joined the committee, because he was my choice, okay? Having been here for almost 8 years now, having that level-headed, thoughtful person that looks at all the issues as a backup was important to me, okay? And having somebody with that experience, okay? However, David never emailed me back, so I didn't know his feelings on it, and I'm disappointed that he's not here this evening, because if I choose to turn down the nomination, he would have been my nomination for chair. Okay? I don't know what his personal commitments are as far as availability and things like that. So I feel like I'm a little stuck between doing what I think is right and my personal reservations. I don't want to set Jeff Tufts out as a chair, but I don't know him very well, and I don't know what his time frame is. So for me to act as chair, it would really mean a vice chair who is available to fill in where I cannot. That's my feeling, that's my personal situation, and I kind of leave it up to the committee of, is that the person you want to be your chair, knowing my limitations, or is it somebody else you would rather see in that position? I think I'll give you a minute to think about it.
Well, I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, no,
I
neither do
would
I.
like Bonnie to be chair, Donna to be vice chair, and I knew Jeff to be clerk. And I feel strongly about it.
Okay, in that case, I will accept the nomination.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
I think we should wait. Huh?
We'll be waiting all night then.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not gonna sink the boat if we wait until they're here, right? But
Wait,
Well,
And
he's
Dominic-
Dominic.
Dominic's
Let's
here,
get his
and
input.
Dominic's here in time.
Get his input.
I think we should just go ahead and vote.
I mean, they knew it was an important
Exactly,
meeting,
yeah.
and
exactly.
We
This
had
is-
to start this off with nominations and finals.
Yeah, that was
So
the,
to me, we weren't here within,
That was the
15,
first
20
order.
minutes.
I mean, we don't know why they're not here, but that's, and we want them to participate actively.
They emailed us, told us. like-
or responded to,
Bonnie, yeah?
And I mean, I loved it, and I
Yeah,
loved
so
Jeff,
do
so
I.
I mean,
yeah.
it's no reflection against them personally, it's just that, you just can't stop the cement mixer from pouring.
Okay. I mean, but there's nothing going on between now and probably the August meeting.
Well, I think, it's always been historical that you
Is
do
there
it
a
the first meeting.
possibility of temporary positions?
No.
I guess, no?
No.
Normally, the reorganization is done before the end of June, because the first, that's where the term
That's when it
changes.
changes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're already into
Yeah, I
the
understand
year.
that. It's-
And we knew
And
this
we
since
didn't-
April, I mean, it was
Right, and we
coming.
didn't
We've
do
been
this
forewarned.
because they weren't here that night. There wasn't a full vote of us
Right,
here that
we
night.
did it at that time. We put it off already.
We put
for
it
that
off
reason.
once.
Already?
Right.
I
We
move
have
that
a
go forward.
nomination on the floor. Is there a second?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain. Vice Chair, we have two nominations. Oh, I'm sorry. What did you say? You're retracting your nomination,
Yes.
Jeff?
And redo it.
Okay, a nomination for Donna Bronk as Vice Chair.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second. Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain.
And I have a nomination for clerk, Mr. Jeff Langdon. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That
Okay.
was quick, Jeff.
I'm going to have to learn.
All right, first order of business, discussion of a joint meeting between the FinCom, the Board of Selectmen, and the School Committee on July 23rd, which is a Wednesday, in regards to the FY 2016 budget. Mr. Chairman, would you like to give us some information on what it is that you wish to discuss?
Excuse me, the time of that meeting, please?
Uh,
3:20. I'm sorry, Al, I didn't hear you. The time of the meeting?
6:30
Thank you.
In this room?
Yes.
Basically, since we're working on Plan A, which is the original balanced budget, we need to look at our 2015 budget for the, going forward as we're at there, see what adjustments we're going to make, see what we're going to do as far as combining some services, get some game plan out there. And also, since we're going to have a substantial shortfall in 2016, we need to start to actually look at where we're going to cut next and start to plan, because you don't want to plan just a few months before the actual budget starts to be put together. We need to have a plan in place with the school and with our other different departments in town. So this will be the beginning of our plan for 2016 as well.
Okay, and how many people are going to be available for that meeting?
I'm going to be out of state.
I'll be
I'll
available.
be here.
I'll be here.
I'll be here.
Okay, so
The school committee has everybody but one member available. The Board of Selectmen looks like all 5 are available.
What is the 23rd on?
23rd?
Yeah.
23rd is a Wednesday.
6:30.
Is it a Tuesday or Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay.
I congratulate you on doing it, because last year we were going to do the same thing, and it never happened until October, November.
Well, this is just the beginning. This is going to be frequent.
Good job.
Yeah.
Wait, if it's a long, long term, we got to start, so it's good. Very good.
And so we're in agreement, we're going to be attending this joint session of the FinCom, Board of Selectmen, and School Committee on July 23rd, 6:30 PM in the Board of Selectmen's room. Okay? Thank you, sir.
You'll have to post the meeting as we'll post, and the school committee will post. Thank you.
Thank you. Town Administrator.
So excuse me, but we have to post that as our regular meeting?
Yes.
anyways, right?
We'll decide whether we want to schedule a meeting between now and then, okay?
Okay.
Good
Evening,
evening.
sir.
How are you?
I'm good. It's a little warm.
Yeah, that's new fiscal year. We should be able to turn on the air conditioners.
For a
Should.
while anyways, huh?
I actually borrowed that from somebody that said it earlier today. So if you guys, fiscal 14, as you know, we have until July 15th to realistically close the book. So we won't have ending numbers for the fiscal year probably till, I would say, the first week in August. We should have the preliminary ones, and until we have the audit and such, none of the numbers are set in stone, as you know. Powers and Sullivan should be coming in August. They've already been in, almost 2 months ago, I believe, and spent 2 weeks here, which for preliminary audit, which is approximately 6 months sooner than they did last year. So we have them working on that. We don't anticipate with the transfers we've made any deficits or anything being brought forward. And again, with year-end bills, we're telling everybody you need to have all your bills in before the 15th, otherwise everything goes to October town meeting. If those bills go to October town meeting, they have to pass by 9/10 vote. So try and get 9/10 vote on town meeting floor for a past due bill. So that's fiscal 14, not much of an update. We will have more of the revenue reports. I do have May available. I haven't gone through it, but it's I'll ship that out to Kelly to disperse, if that's okay, Kelly. Okay. Fiscal 15, we've been running through the kiosk program through July 7th. The revenues are $40,300.75. So we earned in June $30,488.25, and July $9,812.50. Last year, the kiosks didn't get up and running until July 18th, and they ran through the end of September. And the revenues they generated were $57,566.50.
Wow.
So we've set a goal this year of $90,000, and looks like we should be well within that, as long as the no more rain on the 4th of July or anything like that. The numbers for the state aid have been sent to the governor, so until he signs that, we won't have our final state aid numbers. But when comparing what we received in aid and the assessments we were charged in 2014 versus what's being moved forward in fiscal 2015, our total net increase is negative $486,806. So in other words, our state aid, when taken in with the assessments, is almost $500,000 less than we'd received the previous year. The largest item on that continues to be the school assessments, unfortunately. The school choice sending tuition assessment increased from $318,000 to $667,000, and the charter school sending tuition increased from $377,000 to $597,000. And these are on top of what we already pay out to Upper Cape Cod Tech for schools to go there, which is approximately this fiscal 15, which is this fiscal year, $2.7 million. The other major increases were the retired teachers' health insurance of $39,323. Because they're in the GIC when they retire, that comes down as a state assessment. FY15 issues that we're seeing is, we did the major transfer of $45,000 into municipal maintenance for the electricity line. Obviously, if we were short last fiscal year and we had a similar amount budgeted for FY15, that's of concern. We do have two items that could address the shortfall altogether. One is, it looks like the Sage Solar project will come online this fiscal year. Potential first year savings of close to $80,000, but that's going to be mixed with the water pollution control facility. So most likely, the town and school side would be between $50,000 and $60,000 in savings. We want to start with the LED light upgrades for at least the library right now, and I know that seems counterintuitive with the amount of hours it's been reduced to, but we're with the plans to move other departments into that building. If it's going to run for a few extra days, that's one of the largest energy hogs we have. It's just the setup in there is brutal. So moving it with the LED lights could save substantial amounts of money. I think our electricity cost every year for that building is $32,000, and we'd be aiming to cut that in less than half. So.
Wow.
So the only bad news with it is the Sage Solar project. We have to have a certain amount of expenditures to have the credits coming back. So if you become too efficient, you could cause yourself some issues. So that's going to be something we'll look to address in the future. We might actually be able to be in the energy business as well and sell off some.
Sell it?
Yeah. So that should be interesting. As far as the rest of FY15, it's the beginning. Everybody smile until we have some issues. So.
have a question. With the fireworks being at the start of the fiscal year, and those services not being paid out through the CEC program anymore, is that a concern that we're starting out with those, overtime expenses, and we've got to, kind of absorb them?
Yeah,
through
they
the year?
did have enough money to have 16,000 put forward for this, for FY15. It's going to be an issue in FY16. One of the interesting notes I received from municipal maintenance was last year they had picked up, when they picked up the trash, they actually weigh it by the tonnage because they bring it over to CMAS. It was over 4,000 pounds worth of trash, so 2 tons of trash. They'd had the trash barrels out, brought them in specially for the 4th of July. This year they did not put the trash barrels out. The total trash tonnage picked up was $1,100, excuse me. So that was 2,900 less pounds of trash without the trash barrels. So almost 1.5 tons less.
So in other words, they carted it in, they carted it out this time?
Yes.
Amazing.
But it wasn't the greatest weekend either.
Yeah. Well,
They put it all in my dumpster.
what's that? They put it in yours?
Yeah.
Thank you for the donation.
Your dumpster
It
gets
was
full.
overpiled in the city Orchard Center. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. It's all right.
I had heard that there was some concern over that,
Yeah, the police overtime runs roughly between $11,000 and $12,000 for the event. Yeah, next year without the community events, it's going to be interesting because the fireworks committee will have to fundraise to cover these costs because we can't do it without the help. So
absolutely.
Monica, that's a question?
Sure.
Not to get off the subject or anything like that, but, anyone who has a business in the Orchard, anyone who has like a business in the Orchard Center or even Wareham Center or restaurants or anything, would the town be able to make them have a trash barrel in front of their place?
is there
Especially a
it
restaurant?
could they potentially? Yes, you could always make regulations to do
And-
something
and
like that.
What would be the procedure for that? How would we get something like that started?
I don't know if we'd actually need a bylaw, or if the selectmen would have to start the policy on it. You might need something stronger than just a policy.
Because I have a barrel out in front of our place and I dump it, I leave it there
Yeah.
and we dump it in our dumpster. But every, even a restaurant out there, they should have a barrel and take care of it for themselves and to help, cut down on the litter. I don't think one barrel for a restaurant or a place of business, in the center of a town where the town doesn't have the funds to do it is an outrageous thought. Go ahead, Al. I'm sorry. Bonnie, can Alan speak?
Sure.
We had a meeting about 2 weeks ago with the OBA. It was on a Friday. I was there. Gary was there. They were talking about the trash issue, as it's always been a problem there. And the OBA members, which are all business people, had said that they had proposed to the town that if we would provide barrels for municipal maintenance, that they would take care of putting the barrels out on Onset Ave, and they would also take care of removal of the trash. But they said the town had rejected their offer. I told them at the time that I never heard of such an offer, but I'll give you a simple answer. We can start that right now while I'm here. It's been 2 weeks. They haven't done a thing. And I just got an email from Eleanor Martin saying there's now kickback from the members of the OBA not wanting to spend the money.
Right, well, I'm not so much saying the OBA, but each business.
Well, the OBA represents most of the businesses in Onset.
But if you're a business owner,
The owners are the members that I spoke to.
okay, no, I understand that, but what I was saying is like, most of the businesses have dumpsters or have trash pickup.
They have,
Should be responsible.
they have in the back. I think the only way you can do something, Dominic, is if the Board of Selectmen wants to bring forth probably a warrant article or a bylaw or a zoning change in which I'm not sure we can do it legally, is basically have a surcharge in any business that has a takeout business to basically to cover the cost of the trash they generate by takeout.
Yeah, that was my question, how would we get something like that started? You say that we need a warrant?
We would have to discuss it with the board and then figure out how we go from there legally.
All right,
Okay?
thank you.
Good thought.
With trash, one of the things we sort of joked about, but it might be something worth putting together, is having the 5-cent return put on the nip bottles.
You know, I picked up a 5-cent beer can off my front lawn the other day, and that didn't stop anybody from throwing it out either,
I
so.
don't know. There was a couple the young lady brought in about 3 giant bags filled with them. I think she could have made a mortgage payment with what she brought in.
Yeah.
Besides that, the only other item that we have is the selectmen did vote to accept the agreement with the PEC, which is the Public Employee Committee, or the unions, for entering into the Mayflower Group, which would hopefully start on October 1st, which would bring us out of the self-insured business and bring us into what was the old Plymouth County Group, so that they are actually our insurance group, and their rates have been, for the last 3 years, have not increased. So yes, when we've been dealing with anywhere from 6 to 11% increases, they've had zeros because of the trust they've built up, and they've been it's actually going to be, depends on when you look at it, whether they've had their major expenditures or not, but you have a trust that's close to $45 million, and they've been able to use the earnings to offset some increases and such. So we are going to enter into that group, and that will end up over the next several years save us a little bit of money, probably anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 a year, and then there could be substantial savings into the future beyond that.
Now, when does this take effect, and how does, for those of us who totally get how this is absorbed, what happens to our trust as far as getting absorbed into that?
Right, our trust is going to stay. They don't touch our trust fund dollars. We're going to need that for the IBNR, for the run out of any of our current claims. We've also picked up a stop-loss insurance policy that will cover the first 90 days, so that if we have any major losses, we're covered under the stop-loss. And that stop-loss, actually, it isn't just for the 90 days. It will actually cover anything incurred during that period for the next year. So in other words, if something happened in September but wasn't billed till February, it'll still be will be covered for it. So it was interesting to have that premium. It's with the way our run rates have been going and our high claims, this was hedging our bets pretty well. So.
How big is that group? How many lives do they cover?
They have 22,000 members, and we have a little over 600 subscribers. So we're going into the peaks and valleys can be absorbed much better through them than with us.
Do we have any long-term risk in our own previous coverage? In other words, somebody who is going to be requiring medical assistance for a long period of time.
The only thing that we have for a long-term policy is the 111F, which is a separate policy for the police department. This year we actually picked up $1 million coverage, which we've never had before. There's been some incidents down in Dartmouth and Westport between police and fire that have had major impacts to the budgets of towns. So, but as for our regular employees, the only thing we had available was the stop-loss insurance that covered anything over $100,000 in the claims, and the claims were for that year.
Madam Chair? May I ask a question?
You may.
What I'd like to ask you, so you're saying that they don't have any long-term or short-term disability policies?
We don't cover any. We don't have it from the town side. We do. They can get it through. I think it's honestly the thing with the little duck. Is that Geico or Aflac? Excuse me.
Aflac.
Yeah, but the town doesn't do it. We started looking at it whether you'd remove the the sick days, except for what you have for, so let's say they get 15 sick days a year. You don't let them roll over any sick days or anything. Instead, do a short-term or a long-term disability. But that hasn't worked out well in other towns. So
Is it possible as a bargaining chip that you could use a long-term or short-term disability and take away 5 of their sick days? I mean, 15 sick days is, the private sector doesn't get that. I can guarantee you that. I just think that, and I mean, you do want to look out for your employees. I mean, my employees all had short-term and long-term disability. And I don't know if it would be cheaper and, you know, vice versa, you know. So the person that's really sick gets what they need, and the person that just takes Fridays and Mondays, and every organization has them.
right.
And I don't know if it would be something the town would be worth looking at, but
We have the workers' comp, but the disability. The Rhode Island's one of the few states that does have TDI that's funded through the town itself, not through the town, but through the state. So if so, when somebody goes on maternity leave, they automatically have TDI as well that gets covered for a 7-week period.
yeah.
But yeah,
I was just
it's,
wondering if it was worth looking at. I mean, because I, as an employee, would much rather have that than 5. You know, take 5 days of my.
Right.
I'm sure you would too.
Yeah, there's there's very rarely that the people will actually use the days that they have and even rolled over. We do have sick bank committees that are able, the unions are able to donate more time to some of the people, but again, besides workers' comp, those are just outstanding liabilities for us.
I think too, as you've been doing these contracts, and I don't want to get into a great deal of detail over it, that gradually it's less and less. It doesn't seem like, that huge number that we had a few years back of, we just couldn't believe people had this many days off. They literally could have taken 3 months, a year off. They had so many sick days.
You have some of them, I'm sorry to interrupt, that some of the contracts call for a substantial amount of days, including an extra day for every year after 15 years of service and such. So, and that's vacation. So those can be, not all the unions have that. And I'm not going to point fingers at them, but some have it. And where that worked was when we had enough money to be fully staffed, it was cheaper to provide those days than it was to increase the base pay. But now we've sort of come around full circle where we don't have the staff. So every time somebody takes off, that's work time lost. So you're losing production. So I don't think we brought one of the contracts to town meeting. I think you saw that we ended for anybody hired after January 1, 2014. I can't remember the exact date. There's no more sick leave buyout, which is getting rid of a liability.
Good.
And they couldn't carry over more than, I think it was 40 vacation days altogether, which sounds like a lot. It's substantial, but we're getting to a point with all the days we have off. There's I'd be shocked if the employees are taking all of them. So.
Okay. I just had one question. As far as the FY 2015, there's been discussions in and out in the press on any operational changes that are really going to affect town hall operations. We get that out there.
We'll probably end up moving to a 4-day work week, and the hours will be a little longer during the 4 days. That's still something you have to run through the unions and get all acceptance on there. But the goal would be to lessen the cost from the building on on the day off, but also give the residents extra hours during the week so that we're open till 6 and maybe one day 6:30 p.m. And so the people that work 9 to 5 that live in the area, obviously if you're commuting from Boston, you'll never make it back in time, but they don't have to take some time off. That's it won't necessarily, it'll actually benefit the residents in the long run unless they're coming in on a Friday as a non-resident. That's your only day to be here. But besides, many of the items they can do are online. You can pay your bills online. The harbor master, their shack allows for the selling of parking permits and such, so there shouldn't be too much of a disruption.
Any questions for our town administrator?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Well, I actually have two. On the buyout, do they get 100% when we buy them out, or 50%? Is there a percentage?
No,
in
I
there?
don't remember but it's not 100. I thought they were 25%.
Okay. And then, can you just explain to me, I heard it last year, but I want to hear it again, the state aid and the school assessment and the difference between, I know what school choice is and the charter, but the 318 to the 670, is that because the state is not giving that, or is that an increase that we have? And then it's even compounded by the fact that the state's not giving us as much aid.
Yeah, it would probably be that the assessments are the cost, so they're assessing you those for students going out of district.
Okay. And the state aid, when we give the state, or maybe we don't do it that way, we don't tell the state we're giving this much, and how do they determine our state aid?
The part of the formula is for Chapter 70 is based off of two items. It's the population wealth, which we are very low on. Bottom 25, I believe, 25% in the state. And then the second item is land wealth, which we are in the top 25%. So whereas people say, well, you have all these extra properties, shouldn't you have more money? Well, no, it probably reduces our state aid by $2 to $3 million, which offsets any benefit, because we are literally considered land rich. Nice position to be in.
How do they figure that?
It's called the EQV, Equalized Valuation.
I'm sure there's a formula,
Yeah.
just the rationale.
It's something that if you've heard the school committee, particularly Mr. Sweat, has almost been screaming about. And what happened was, at some point in the formula as well, they decided to set a minimum of aid that towns are receiving. So even the wealthiest communities, not based off of need, but based off of minimum, they're going to get a minimum amount of dollars, and that aid into our contribution as well. So.
By land rich, are they talking about land mass, not necessarily buildings on it, just land?
They would go with some of the assessed values on it.
Sorry, I got glued to the table a little bit here. Yeah.
A lot of the Cape towns are facing that same
Right.
problem with the formula. The Cape was talking about one time banding together and going to the State House because it just isn't what it looks like. The Cape does not follow that formula. I mean, Wellesley gets more money than we do.
We can get we said it a couple of years ago, we were gonna try to do that, and, until people get upset by it and really, you can get your representatives and people together, they're not gonna change it. I mean,
No.
it is an unfair formula. I think that they're looking at it, but, until enough people get angry about it and push,
Squeaky wheel
they're
gets
not
it.
gonna do anything about it. But if you get enough people, and I'm sure Mr. Sweat will go on up there with you and tell them all about it.
Yeah, I'm sure he would.
He's pretty knowledgeable about it.
Yeah. Anything else you would like us to know?
No.
No? Anything else you would like us not to know?
Yeah. We appreciate it and look forward to a fine year.
Okay.
That's it. So I'll keep our fingers crossed. Good year, right?
Bonnie, may I ask
Go
a
ahead.
couple of questions? Just for review, could we run down what capital is gonna be spent this year and what the projects are and where we stand with them?
Well, the only items that we'd have for capital are the police cruisers for $99,000 that we had in their budget line. There's nothing additional really.
When will that happen?
We've probably put in the order for them now, but the build-out's taken us over 6 months on vehicles before.
6 months? Okay.
Yeah.
How about any school bus work?
These schools, I don't think we budgeted capital-wise for it. They could pay for some out of their revolving account, but.
Are we doing
didn't-
that rebuild thing up in New Hampshire or whatever where
No, we're not doing that.
you talked about the lights? How about the ambulance for EMS? Has that happened?
Yeah, we already have. That should be in the next couple of weeks, actually. They've built that out. So the capital, we put 80,000 in their budget, but realistically, that's just paying the lease payment for the,
3 years.
yeah. So we paid, last year we paid 80,000. We actually prepaid on it because we had the money in the budget. And so you can, by prepaying last year, we were able to reduce some of the interest, not too much. But then we have this year's payment of 80,000, next year's, and then the following year we can order another ambulance on there. So they have a good rotation of ambulances, and the new one is never 9 years old.
The cemetery building, the garage building that was.
Yeah, there's
we
going
had
to
the
be
money
that's
for and there's never. got
that's
done.
oh yeah, when they do that takes a while. That takes a while, Tom. And in all honesty, if that's coming through the cemetery commissioners,
Okay, I mean, could we just have a regular schedule about this is the capital and this is the plan for it, and just sort of get every quarter sort of get an update as to how we stand against what we said we were going to do?
yeah, the capital planning committee does that.
I mean, a report to us from capital planning?
You can ask them
Who's
for
our
that.
seat on capital planning, Kelly, do you know?
Yeah. You have a representative on there.
David Burritt.
Oh, okay. We can
Okay.
put, if you'd like that, we can put that as a regular item on our agenda, update from capital planning.
At least
And that would have to
quarterly.
come from David.
Yeah, at least once a quarter or something like that. I agree.
And, you know, versus when's it going to be done and how does it stand against the budget amount and things of that nature. The multipurpose center, I know they're up on the roof and it looks like it's pretty, that project's pretty well along.
Yep, that's all done.
And how did it come out versus the budget?
I believe I'll have to get the final numbers from Dave. I think they were within 4,000, so they were a little under. There was some extra work that had to be done though.
WCTV is going to get painted this year, I think. The school roof, when is that going to take place in 2014 or 2015? When does that $2 million?
Yeah, you'd have the school speak to you about that one.
The school.
Is that so? The capital planning doesn't have anything to do with that.
The capital planning only makes recommendations, and we'll usually give them an update and such. So
Well, I mean, could we get, as a town, get some sort of an idea as to where these things
don't look at him.
stand?
Don't look at him.
Huh?
Don't look at him.
I would say, say,
I mean, we just sort of say, here's the plan, here's what we
He's
thought we're gonna do,
he's
this
just
is
a
what it's gonna
resident in the
cost,
crowd right
This is
now.
where it stands.
as far as the question on the school roof, I mean, that's controlled by the school committee right now, so I would say save that question for your joint meeting and address it to the school committee.
I'm not so concerned about that, is just to get on a continuing basis, just to see how we're tracking along versus where we thought we'd be.
Yeah, I think we're.
And how the money's going. And
The multi-service, this was this community preservation
Correct. So-
grant, am I correct?
Right, so
Okay.
any funds that aren't expended would go back to community preservation.
Okay.
when we got an original copy of the budget for fiscal year 15, we had 143 people, 143.8 people. Do we know where we're gonna be from a head count point of view for the,
You had,
I'm not
you
talking
had
about the
probably-
school, I'm talking about everything other than the school.
You had 118 FTEs, right? That's what
Yeah.
the number would have been, and you're down to, I believe the total count now you have is 112 FTEs. And that's not including me.
Those are full-time equivalents?
Correct.
Yeah.
I don't, that should not include municipal, not water pollution control or EMS. EMS has nine members total. They just lost one staff member. We'll have to replace that. And then water pollution.
16 in water pollution.
Yes, so there's been no changes over there.
So we're 112 plus the 16 and the 8?
Yeah, because you have the general fund budget, then the EMS is the revolving account, well, the offset receipts really, and then water pollution control is an enterprise fund. Those are three different budgets.
Okay, so we're 112 plus 24.
Yeah.
And do we know what the school is?
No, I believe the last estimate that I had heard was I thought they had said 395, but I could be working off an old number.
We should get a regular
You-
update on full-time
Yeah,
equivalents.
one of the things you have to understand is, as the town administrator, I have no control over the school department whatsoever.
It's okay, but we should.
No, I
we
think that should be,
ask for-
I think there should be a clear explanation of that, because many people think that I control the school budget, that I can withdraw
We
funds
think
from
you
them.
control everything.
I try saying that at home, it doesn't work.
Except for your daughter, when I saw her at
Yeah.
the clam bake, she was.
So I mean, that's, at some point I don't mind bringing some of these things up and such, but it would be interesting if, as we have these joint meetings and such, maybe that's some of the topics that could be brought. I meet with the superintendent. I have no problem gathering the information and such, but at some point the interaction of the committees and things would be interesting. So.
Can I ask a
Definitely.
question? Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
How does it come together if you think about the traditional income expense statement, a balance sheet and a cash flow? Somewhere you would think that the finance committee has got to be able to see it all, and
Yep.
from a viewpoint of the town coming together, the auditor would expect that.
You do. You receive a monthly statement on the expenditures, and the school is listed, but the school is listed as a
Yeah,
as a
that's
whole.
Three lines.
That's a separate issue that
Yeah.
in joint measure we could do. I mean, obviously, it's like any organization. You got the different silos
Right.
all feeding into the same thing, but somewhere it's the same thing that the citizens have to worry about. It's all
Right.
coming together.
No, we at the end of the day, which actually is interesting, and this is just sort of a side note. I received my real estate bill the other day. I was looking at it, and it said percentage to town, 45.6, and these aren't going to be the right numbers, but percentage to school, 54.4. That's where my tax bills go. I couldn't believe it. They actually broke it down on the tax bill where it was going. So I don't know why they did that. That was pretty interesting.
Do you live in a multi-district school system, maybe?
I know it's multiple schools. I don't know if it's
It
multiple
may be if
schools.
it's
Regional
yeah,
system,
we have
yeah.
regional
You
system.
got a
I bet
regional
that's what it
system,
is.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
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 Isn't it funny? I don't know that from my own town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else for
Bonnie,
our town administrator?
Well, we're still talking about school committee. When Kelly was 18 years old, these meetings started. And for the last 18 years, they've been on Wednesday at 6:30. And the problem is that the school committee meets on Wednesday at, I don't know, 6:30, 7 o'clock, whenever they meet. We ought to consider allowing ourselves to change one or the other so that we can participate even as an auditor at their meeting, so we
Yeah.
know what the heck's going on there.
Yeah. I think we tried to do that a couple of years ago. I think Kelly actually spent the time, and I would hate to make her do it again, but maybe we can look at it, because I remember you taking all of the meetings and trying to, for the different committees, and seeing if there was a place that the FinCom would better sit, and there really wasn't a better choice, I can tell you that. But, you know, things have been moved around, it might be a chance to look at it again. Yeah, it conflicted with a lot of different other areas and the room use and things like that, so, but we can certainly take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important one that we ought
Yeah.
May I recommend
to keep
noon?
our finger in.
Excuse me?
May I recommend noon?
Me-
12 noon?
12 noon, yeah. Well, I'm available, but I don't think anybody else is. Okay, I think we're done with you for now. We want to hang around.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me,
Thank you.
We have some other,
one quick question. I know that I don't know if you can answer or not, the Water Pollution Control was trying to get some more, that Water Pollution Control had put in for some federal grants for some for expansion of the system. Do you know anything about, has any of that been accepted, or?
Yeah, that would be off into the future. One of the, I don't know if they're expanding whether that's something would be happening in the near future of expanding areas that are being sewered. What will need to be done is areas that are already sewered are going to need to be repaired, specifically Swift's Beach and Onset area, which are going to be probably some of the main focuses. And then I think Mr. Campina's estimate is that by 2022 the plant itself will need to be increased for the capacity. So you're probably looking at a couple major projects before sewering any other areas.
Are we gonna have, when are the sewer commissioners going to be elected? Or put on the ballot?
I believe next. Yeah.
2015?
so on the April ballot, just in time for me to retire. Okay? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I did just, Kelly, with this discussion, it reminded me that we're also going to need to do liaison assignments, and including, I think there's 3 positions that actually have to be filled by a FinCom member. So Kelly's going to take a look at the list as far as who was assigned last time, and then we'll do that at our next meeting. But kind of think about maybe some areas that some members who have already filled in some places, and maybe they've got a different interest, or where you might, you know, want to think about being a liaison too, or, you know, especially where, like, you're talking about when meetings are, that makes a big difference as to whether you're available for them or not. So we'll talk about that at our next meeting, which brings us into discussion of schedule for upcoming year. Kelly does a great job of setting up our calendar going into each town meeting. Good night. So we'll probably have to take a look at that in our at our next meeting, okay? And, you know, obviously we meet much more frequently when there's issues to discuss and going into town meeting, both fall and then spring town meeting, and we want to do you know, a really good job. But I don't want to overburden people either, you know, get the issues out, and it is the beginning of the fiscal year, everything is smooth right now, and I think that the biggest priority is going to be these joint sessions to get together and plan for what's going to happen next. You know, obviously, Mr. Worthen, you've made some wonderful comments and some questions that need to be addressed in that group forum. And I hope you remember those, because those were really good, and I'd like to hear them again, and I'd like to hear the school committee's opinion on some of that stuff, because it's the things I don't get to oftentimes answer or even ask. You know, we get a school committee budget, we don't see anything unless you're attending those school committee meetings, and then we can't do that until they hand it to us. So we're not sure how it gets built. So I think these meetings leading up to it are going to be really, really important. Okay.
Can I ask a question along those
Sure.
lines? A lot of work went into the 5-year plan.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
the intent basically to start with that 5-year plan? So let's assume it's the basic plan that's actually being used, and then move forward with the
I
same
think,
process?
yeah, unfortunately, they were two different five-year plans.
Yeah, I know, but the one,
But- Right,
we got one.
right. So we're looking at the
The red
worst-case
one.
scenario, five-year plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one we had.
Right,
so-
we know what's gonna happen, that's projected forward, so obviously, it's gonna be a matter, that's gonna be the building blocks of
Yeah.
what's gonna happen in the next
That's,
year.
that's my question. 'Cause
Yeah.
If you have it as a building block, and then everybody gets used to it,
Right.
then you can spend more time dealing with the exceptions rather than the basic stuff, because it's already,
Right.
it's already laid
We do
out.
want to see how 14 actual
Right,
versus
Yeah.
we've been working off of the plan for 14 all along. We want to see what the revenue has been. in
I was
14.
thinking of two, just to,
Yeah, no, I think
everybody's
you're right.
got to submit
Yeah.
another 5 years, so you're adding the new fifth
That-
year, same process.
Drop one, add one.
And then, because if you have it as a routine, then you, everybody knows that's the routine.
And it
Then you can
becomes
start to
easier.
spend a lot more time on answering these questions about, wait a minute, what's
Right.
this doing, or,
I think one of the
You know, how do you
important
answer
parts
these
of
quick?
bringing this five-year plan forward, okay, is the discussion that happened during that, this is the five-year plan, and this is, you know, the override plan, is that those discussions about, you know, restructuring and budget cuts and a new form of government in some ways, though we have to follow through with those things. We have to, we can't say to them, we're just gonna cut. Because that, you know, whether it's next year or the year after, I'm not gonna stop letting people know that we can't live on what we have. We know this, okay? We're never gonna sell it until they understand that we are also gonna make the changes, okay?
Right,
So
no.
if they, right,
Yeah.
so if they don't
Right,
see,
you
the-
have
You'll never get it.
right, you're
You'll
never gonna
never
get
get
it
there unless you do
unless
that.
they make those changes. So I
Right.
think that will be some of the focuses that we'll be looking at in these joint meetings and in our own meetings of, you know, does this work, does that work? That's why I asked Derek about, you know, structural changes at the town hall. He's going to be doing this. They're going to be working, as long as they get the unions to agree, those are going to be the hours and people are going to have to get used to it. This is what they voted for. Okay? So we'll work on that schedule as to what we got up to look forward to.
August, we're gonna be voting, the selectmen are gonna be voting on the town meeting schedule, but I'll see if I can get it before.
Okay, great.
do we have a schedule that pretty much goes out several months, and it's like the first Wednesday, or the second, third Wednesday, or something like that, or how do we work it?
It's based on the charter. Have you gotten your charter yet?
Yes, I have it, I
They-
took my test today, I didn't do the charter yet.
It's almost like you gotta interpret the charter according to the updated calendar. Kelly's really good at this part, where this is when town meeting is, and you have to back up so many days to this, and that's when that has to be due, and this has to be due
Okay,
that.
so-
So then you work forward from now up to when your deadlines are, and work all that. So what she's explaining is the Board of Selectmen is gonna be voting on on agreeing on those dates, and then we can build from that. That's first up. Okay, and the state ethics training test requirement, have we all taken our state ethics training test for the 99th time?
I didn't realize you gotta update it every 2 years.
The,
Yeah.
How often?
Yeah, every 2 years.
Well, I think you have to have had it in the last 2 years,
Right.
okay? But it's, most of it you can do online. I think the last time I did it, I couldn't print the test, and then I had to save it, and, yeah, it was a mess. But make sure you follow up with that.
the open meeting law is, for those people who picked one up, she gave us the wrong edition. It's been updated to August 1st,
Oh, really?
2013. So the major difference is that it allows for remote attendance.
For what?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, remote attendance, okay.
That was the major difference in reading the two, but don't waste your time reading the first
This
one.
is obsolete?
That's gone.
This is gone.
No, well, it's not so much gone. Everything in there is good except for the ad.
Oh, yeah, well, it's not, the new one's now 16 pages, and it's got, little changes on every,
Okay. They didn't eliminate that information. That information's in it, they just
added
added
to
to
it.
it.
Yeah.
but the major difference is that we can now have remote
Call-ins?
calling.
Yeah. If
Well, that
we-
makes a lot of sense.
We accepted the use of remote capability.
Was that an if, Madam Chairman?
We had,
We have,
it's already
okay.
been accepted with the FinCom.
But we had to set up the right equipment so that we could do it
We could do it, yeah.
effectively.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I think just for the comfort level, I did pass something on to Jeff, but he thought he'd have to take the minutes of the meeting note. You might want to tell him what he's got to do, because I
was gonna ask that afterwards.
Oh,
Let's go
okay.
offline and say.
You don't have to take the minutes of the meetings, only in the event that Kelly is not
Kelly,
in attendance.
Stay healthy.
There are some times where we've been at, like, joint meetings and that we've been at, are you going to be at the joint meeting? But we've also had meetings 10 minutes before town meeting. And, yeah, there has to be notes taken or something turned into Kelly so that we can do that. That's the only time you'll be required to scribble.
it's always a meeting before town meeting.
You just may not recognize it initially.
As long as you can interpret it.
Thank you.
All right.
You're reading my mind.
Well, I would have been in the same
Oh,
situation.
okay.
I'm thinking, this poor guy just come in at first
All right,
meeting.
and this
He's
is
got
the
to take
bill?
notes. I take.
You, after you left last time, I told him, I'm gonna be drinking out of a fire hose gang, so just.
All right, is that, this is in association with this, Association of Town Finance Committee, is that what this? Okay. In your packet, you have this newsletter from the Association of Town Finance Committees, okay? We do belong to this. They invite us to their session or whatever. And we've been paying dues for it. How long have we been paying dues for it? For a while now? A long time.
Yes.
So under any other unanticipated business, I unanticipated Kelly giving me this bill. It's $273 to keep our dues updated with the Association of Town Finance Committees.
I make a motion that we pay 200, whatever it is, 217.
273.
I would second the
73.
motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
A question?
What benefit does it do for us?
I believe they give us, they
Information.
provide free copies of the Finance Committee Handbook on CD, currently being updated and available in October. There will be 7 educational workshops and 2 keynote speakers covering a variety of financial topics during the full-day conference, so we're invited to this conference.
But it-
So there are benefits.
Yeah, I
Dominic,
know that.
I went to the conference and I went to
Very
one of the
good.
workshops. and-
I went to one.
Sounds like a good networking opportunity, because, you know, for example, Donna just mentioned, you know, here's the Cape, and then, you know, I'm thinking, what other towns having the same problem we do? For example,
Finish it.
what's the one up in, along the New Hampshire coast, where the nuclear plant is?
Oh, Seabrook.
Seabury, I mean, yeah,
No, the Massachusetts town?
yeah.
No.
Yeah, Seabrook is in New Hampshire.
No,
No, it
it's
is,
just
yeah.
south of that. It's-
Yeah.
But it's a beach town.
Gloucester,
It's got,
Wenham,
it's got
Hamilton.
essentially the value of the real estate is low.
Yeah.
Somehow, if we're faced with people cutting and doing this kind of stuff, you gotta get together as a gang and
Dartmouth
start,
has some of the same problems.
start working on the
Dennis,
people like
I
yourselves.
just wanted to make sure it was beneficial to us, that's all.
I mean, anybody who would like
I'd pay
this,
it.
would you have a contact where you can get these things through? I can remember getting, my first handbook was actually a hard copy. And this is, yeah, they're currently updating it, so they should be available at some time. It says in October. So, all right, so we have a vote on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Yes. Just sign down here. Welcome. All right. Get your invitation to the summer celebration tomorrow. All right, I need approval of meeting minutes for June 18th, 2014.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second?
All those in favor?
Right.
Two abstain,
I
not
abstained.
present.
I
I
wasn't
should
here.
abstain too, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Wasn't here.
Yeah.
I
two
was there, but
abstentions, yeah. Okay, next meeting, time and date. We are scheduled to do the 23rd. Do you want to have a meeting between now and the 23rd?
So, 2 weeks from now.
It's 2 weeks from now. I don't see an issue
No.
between now and then,
I was gonna say, is there anything pressing?
not that I'm aware of. But now they have my home address, who knows?
Dude,
Anything,
can,
that should be fine. Well, it's not up to me.
Donna?
no, I just wanted to make sure that everybody had updated emails and mailing lists. So if something should come up, you could just
Yeah, you
pop
bet.
it to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's all updated.
Okay.
yeah, you and I are out.
And we just called Dominic.
That's an interesting question. You're supposed to go to the the town website to find your emails. That's probably the last the last place I go. Does it make any sense to send the emails directly to the people?
We mean,
Well, send it to their address rather than send it to Wareham.
I
used-
have, I mean, I have mine bookmarked. I don't have to go through all the, don't you bookmark your email address?
No, not that one. No.
I
I was
do.
looking to forward it to my regular one.
I have it
So that-
bookmarked. I don't have to go into the town website to get to it. I just,
I used to always have it forwarded to mine. 'Cause
You
I'm
can.
not into, because
Is it automatic? You found a way to do it?
no, Kelly did it.
Kelly can set, Kelly will set that up if you
Yeah,
want.
however, you know what, how about, however you want it sent to you, your emails,
Yeah,
why don't you just send me an email with the
Okay.
address you want?
Okay.
And that's
Everything's
legal? I mean, there's no
Yeah.
requirement that we have to
No.
go through the town?
no,
The only reason, the original reason for making the email addresses is because they are logged and monitored, okay? And that was
Yeah,
why,
I could see us, that
Right.
getting out of control.
well, that had to do with ethics laws, okay, and communications of emails.
Public meeting, I mean, all
Yeah.
that stuff, yeah.
But I think if Kelly sends it to your address, the same way we send to you, and then copies to your private address,
Mm-hmm.
That's what
you can get them that way, but they'll still be logged in on the other
That'd
side.
be great.
that would
That's
be great.
Right, well, I can get it, because
That's
when I
good,
go to
yeah.
work, the girls do
That's the
it.
way
I forget.
Because I forget to go into town all the time.
And with your correct email.
And I always ask,
Yeah, I just sent it to Gateway, you know, around that,
All right, well, I don't know
that
if I
personal
just
one, I don't know, I don't even know how to get in there.
All right, well,
The only thing when you do that, I mean, if you're gonna communicate back and forth, this is where you get into a violation, is that if you start communicating back and forth using your private email without copying all,
Bad, yeah.
then you've got a problem, okay? As long as you're just replying, yes, I'm available, no, I'm not available for
Yeah.
this, as long as you're not having a discussion on a topic, then you're fine, okay? So if you're gonna reply back to respond, yes, I'm gonna be at this meeting, or no, I'm not, as long as you hit reply all, it's gonna send it to every email address that she put in there,
But no discussions.
but no discussion on a subject. I mean, if it's like, well, I can't do that, but I could do this, or something like that, that's
No,
different.
I mean,
I'll send it tomorrow.
I mean, it's just,
yeah.
It'll be
what
Yeah,
you're
I know-
describing is
It'll be easier to
just
tell Jeff to
logistics.
call me all the
It's
time.
when you
Right.
start getting into business.
All right?
Exactly, that, then you're in
Serious.
violation,
I'm only
right,
closed
And that does get
Tuesdays,
backed
but
up.
I'll get it
Right.
Wednesday morning.
This is the IRS.
yeah. They log everything that email address says, so,
Thank you, honey.
then that was the reason for it.
I've got the same one, Kelly, as I had.
yes.
Okay. So, our discussion was, do we want to have another meeting between now and then? It was saying no, not unless something of a emergency basis comes up. Is that what we're saying?
That's my feeling.
So our next meeting will be, on July 23rd, 6:30
In this room.
in this room.
Got it.
Do we need to make one after that, or we'll make it that evening?
We can do it that evening.
All right?
All right. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
All right? Yeah, I do have something I'd like to say to you that I will, even though I didn't step up to be on anything. I'll do anything you want.
Good to me.
I'll help you, okay? I mean it. You know I don't have a lot of time, but I will. If you need something done, you yell at me and I'll do it, all right?
All righty. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
All right. Thanks. Donna,
Thank you.
What do you?
I know that you're vice, and thank you.